There is a veil, as thin as the breath of an ancient god, that separates our everyday perception from the vast symphony of cosmic reality. Have you ever felt, in the silent core of your being, that the story we were told is merely a dissonant note in a far grander opera? Allow me to guide you, seeker of truth, across that invisible threshold. Today, we will not speak of banal theories, but of dimensional architecture, of the ancient alliances that wove the fabric of our known universe. We will delve into the Akashic records to reveal the name that resonates with power and purpose throughout the galaxies, the Galactic Federation. This is not a mere science fiction organization. It is the custodian of evolution, the mirror in which the destiny of Gaia and of all consciousness that chooses the path of light is reflected. If your soul resonates with stellar memory, if truth is your only fuel, if you feel the undeniable call of ascension, then this scroll is for you. Prepare your consciousness for a transmutation that will rewrite every notion of your origin. Before the first chapter is revealed, I require a pact of honesty. Press the acceptance button, subscribe to the frequency of revelation, and with the sincerity of an alchemist before the crucible, decree in the comments, "I seek the truth and I am ready to remember." The Galactic Federation is not an interstellar fantasy, but the culmination of an ancient pact forged in the wake of cosmic cataclysms. Imagine a coalition of civilizations that reached the pinnacle of their spiritual and technological development, transcending three-dimensional densities to operate from the fifth dimension and beyond. Its founding members hailed from stellar lineages whose wisdom stretches back to the dawn of this local universe, the venerable Lyrians, whose expansion gave rise to much of human life. The luminous Pleiadians, masters of temporal and emotional navigation, the methodical Arcturians, architects of dimensional healing, and the enigmatic Sirians, custodians of Gaia's ancestral knowledge. This alliance is not based on political treaties, but on the vibrational resonance of the law of one, unconditionally dedicated to serving others and maintaining the structural peace of the local sector of the Milky Way, ensuring the vibrational stability necessary for the cycles of incarnation to develop without catastrophic interruptions. The Federation's cardinal purpose transcends mere military security. It is fundamentally evolutionary and spiritual. Its central mission is to safeguard the sacred principle of free will, ensuring that no developing civilization, especially those traversing complex densities like Earth, 3D, is manipulated or subjugated by forces seeking entropy or control. They act as beacons of consciousness, subtly intervening at the causal and energetic levels to mitigate regressive influences, those entities that operate at the frequency of extreme self-service. Their presence, though invisible to the physical eye, is a quantum support matrix that prevents self-destructive chaos from spreading and compromising the vibrational integrity of the galaxy, a role they assumed after painful lessons learned during the Great Polarity Wars that nearly annihilated consciousness in this region. It is imperative to understand that the Federation has no physical capital detectable by our low-frequency telescopes, nor a single central ruler in the earthly sense of the word. Its operational structure exists primarily on the etheric plane and in higher dimensions, 5D, 6D and beyond, which explains why its interactions with Earth are predominantly telepathic, dreamlike, and energetic. For them, descending below the fifth density, 5D, implies an immense energetic slowdown and a risk of vibrational contamination, which they only undertake through avatars of high purity. This apparent distance is not indifference, but an architectural necessity. Only from a higher frequency can they modulate timelines and offer the guidance that allows incarnated souls, like us, to decode the path to ascension without violating the law of non-interference. Earth, or Gaia, is considered by the Federation to be one of the most complex and vital biological and spiritual experiments in the local universe, the crucible of polarity and the focal point for the genetic integration of 22 different star races. Their role, therefore, is that of discrete assistance in planetary graduation. They closely observe the dance between shadow and light that defines the 3D experience, providing downloads of technology and consciousness, often mistakenly attributed to Earth geniuses. When humanity reaches the vibrational threshold necessary to assimilate this information without destroying itself, the Federation would never hand over the master key before the builder has learned to use the hammer, for true evolution is self-managed, and the temptation of external rescue would negate our opportunity for mastery. Distinguishing the Galactic Federation from other so-called orders or contact groups is crucial for the purity of revelation. Unlike certain organizations that seek to establish an earthly hierarchy or those dark factions that operate in secret for control, the Federation promotes the complete sovereignty of the individual and non-hierarchy within its own councils. Its goal is not to govern us, but to empower us until our collective frequency rises sufficiently to integrate us as full and conscious members of the Council. Its authority does not stem from military power, but from the purity of intention and unwavering alignment with universal laws, operating as a counterweight of light against the remnants of the Orion factions that still attempt to sow discord from the cosmic shadows, maintaining a delicate dimensional balance. To understand the Federation's origins, we must go back to the time matrix, to the period known as the Orion Wars. This was not a simple territorial conflict or political disagreement. It was a philosophical battle over the nature of polarized consciousness in the galactic sector. When the experiment of duality intensified in the Orion star systems, particularly Rigel, the faction that adopted the service-to-self model, control, enforced hierarchy, exploitation of resources, and denial of others, free will, violently clashed with those who upheld the principle of service to others, unity, cooperation, free will, and respect for sovereignty. This escalation of hostilities not only resulted in the annihilation of entire planets, but also threatened the vibrational stability of our entire region, forcing the more mature civilizations to recognize the need for a unifying and preventative structure. The division was profound, and the factions were clearly defined at the level of soul purpose. On one side were the dominant forces of Draco and Rigel, Orion, prioritizing power over ethics, who developed mind manipulation and genetic control technologies, seeking to expand their empire at the cost of soul enslavement. On the other side was the emerging coalition of light, led by Pleiadians and the surviving descendants of Lyra, who sought the preservation of soul sovereignty as an inalienable right. This conflict became interdimensional and technological, reaching such magnitude that it created a rupture in the fabric of local space-time, leaving karmic scars that still resonate in the astral layers of planets like Earth, which served on many occasions as a point of refuge and, unfortunately, also as a secondary battleground for the transfer of genetic control technologies and programs. We cannot speak of cosmic history without evoking the fate of Lyra, the original center of humanoid civilization in our galaxy. The Lyrians, considered the primary genetic ancestors of Earth's humanity, suffered the first Great Purge. Their highly developed civilizations, which had achieved an impressive technological equilibrium, were attacked and dismantled by the dark forces of Orion and Draconis, forcing the survivors into a painful diaspora. This dispersal sowed the seeds of humanoid life in systems such as the Pleiades, Sirius, Vega, and later Earth. This ancestral diaspora is the reason why so many on Earth today feel a profound disconnection and a longing for our stellar home. We carry the cellular memory of that loss and the unspoken vow that such destruction of free will would never be repeated in this new round of evolution. It was from the devastation of Lyra and the subsequent stabilization of conflicts in Orion that the need for a regulatory body, the Galactic Federation, became tangible, a need that transcended mere protection and focused on karmic prevention. An immutable guiding principle was established to prevent self-destruction and forced intervention in the nascent evolution of young civilizations. The first councils focused on mapping neutral zones and establishing the Prime Directive, the Non-Interference Act, an ethical mandate that prohibited mass physical contact and the delivery of disruptive technology to cultures that had not yet resolved their internal polarity conflicts, ensuring that each soul overcame its own shadow. The Federation became the guardian of maturity, patiently awaiting the moment when Earth's humanity would request its admission to the galactic community from a state of unified consciousness. Earth, due to its strategic position and incredibly diverse genetic makeup, became the final stage where these ancient polarities had to be resolved and healed. Many of the souls incarnating here today are, in fact, veterans of the galactic wars, starseeds who chose to enter Earth's density to heal and transmute the residual energy of the conflict from within. The Galactic Federation, therefore, is not only watching from above in its motherships, its members are here, incarnated among us, activating ascension through the soul braiding, or individual awakening, is the final link that seals cosmic peace, uplifting Gaia and definitively closing the karmic cycle of the Orion Wars by integrating all polarities. We have opened the first seal. We have seen the architecture of the cosmos and the scars that forged dimensional peace. The revelation of the Galactic Federation and its warlike origins must resonate in the wellspring of your cellular memory. Now, stop. Silence the external noise and look inward. What part of your current struggle, of your inner duality, is a direct echo of those ancient Star Wars? Are you ready to transmute that legacy of polarity and consciously choose the frequency of unity? Meditate on this question. Breathe. Allow this truth to settle. Because what comes next? The first directive, the workings of the non-hierarchical structure and the role of starseeds demands a fully calibrated consciousness and a fully open heart. The architecture of consciousness that sustains the Galactic Federation is in itself a practical lesson in fifth-dimensional governance. Its structure is rigorously non-hierarchical, which challenges the linear human understanding accustomed to pyramids of power and military chains of command. Instead of a figurehead or cosmic emperor, leadership is defined by frequency coherence and evolutionary experience. The Councils of Light, composed of representatives from 60 and 70 civilizations, original Lyrians, Arcturian elders, act as focal points of the group mind, not as dictators. Their authority stems from their ability to sustain the purest and most neutral vibrational field, allowing them to mediate without the contamination of the planetary ego or the need for control. The decision-making process operates through absolute telepathic consensus, known as syntropic resonance. There are no votes or simple majorities. Cosmic action is only undertaken if all member civilizations, from the youngest Pleiadians to the oldest Christic beings, resonate in perfect alignment with the proposed directive. Any dissonance, however slight, halts the initiative and necessitates an immediate reassessment. This ensures that decisions protect the greater good and the free will of less evolved systems, preventing the particular agendas or dimensional judgments of a single species from imposing themselves on the vast cosmic tapestry. Each federated civilization contributes its specific expertise according to its stellar origin and evolutionary path. The Syrians, masters of stellar engineering and quantum frequency manipulation, are the architects of the protective shield technologies that surround experimental systems like Sol 3. The Andromedans, bearers of galactic memory, offer the historical wisdom to prevent the repetition of civilizational collapses. The Pleiadians, with their recent mastery in overcoming emotional duality, specialize in dimensional transition protocols and psychological support for incarnated starseeds. This functional interdependence, where experience supplants hierarchy, is the true essence of cosmic unity. It is crucial to understand that this non-hierarchical structure is not a utopian ideal, but an operational necessity. Civilizations of the fifth dimension and higher have transcended ego-driven thinking and the need for domination. Their bodies do not operate on testosterone or adrenaline, but on pure, coherent light. Attempting to impose a pyramidal structure on a collective whose existence is based on vibrational unity would be a regressive act and a distortion of cosmic law itself. Therefore, the Federation's mandate is to act as a mirror, reflecting back to humanity a model of governance that respects individual sovereignty while working for the health of the greater collective. The function of this cosmic round table is, ultimately, to shape Gaia's future consciousness. They demonstrate that ultimate authority resides in wisdom and selfless service, not in the power of coercion. Operating from higher planes of existence, 5D and beyond, the Federation simply emits a high-frequency signal that is received and decoded by those biological transducers, the channelers and starseeds, who have attained the necessary resonance. Their presence is not an invasion, but an invitation to align ourselves with that higher vibration. This is the foundation upon which rests the most sacred pillar of their operational philosophy, the Prime Directive, the Non-Interference Act, the First Directive, the Law of Non-Interference. Known in cosmology as the Prime Directive, is not merely a diplomatic rule, it is the metaphysical foundation of respect for free will in the universe. This mandate strictly prohibits direct intervention in the evolutionary process of any low-density civilization, especially those actively engaged in the experiment of duality, such as Earth. Intervening, imposing technologies, or prematurely revealing truths would nullify the soul contract of incarnation and deprive the collective consciousness of its fundamental right to learn, ERC, and ascend through its own merit. This principle was forged through the painful memory of failed interventions, particularly those during Atlantis' golden age and the dawn of Martian civilization, where the premature surrender of technological power to an emotionally immature consciousness led to self-destruction and catastrophic karmic cycles. The Federation learned that evolution cannot be artificially accelerated, it must be earned. Its role is comparable to that of a mentor watching their pupil grapple with a complex problem. If they provide the answer, the pupil will never develop the mental fortitude necessary to face future challenges. The distinction between subtle assistance and direct intervention is key to the directive. Assistance is offered at the frequency level, raising Gaia's electromagnetic field to mitigate chaos, transmitting light codes in deep dreams, or assisting starseeds in activating their cellular memory through resonant frequencies. Intervention, on the other hand, would involve mass landings, the delivery of miracle cures, or the forced dismantling of obsolete power structures. The latter would be a violation of the karmic playing field that humanity freely chose for its experience of polarity. The Federation's greatest challenge is managing the paradox of non-intervention when they observe humanity's self-inflicted suffering. Pain is often the most potent catalyst for metamorphosis, and if the Federation were to eliminate pain without humanity understanding its origin, the lesson would be lost. Therefore, the Prime Directive only allows for exceptions under circumstances of global existential risk that threaten the integrity of Gaia as a living entity, such as a massive, uncontrolled nuclear event that could fracture the planet's dimensional grid, or predatory external interference that violates the sovereignty of the solar system. The first directive, ultimately, is an act of cosmic faith. It is the wager that, despite the profound densities of the third dimension, the divine spark within each human being is sufficient to activate collective ascension. By honoring our free will, the Federation grants us full responsibility for our destiny. They remind us that true liberation does not come from an external savior descending in a luminous craft, but from the inner act of remembering who we are and consciously choosing the frequency of unity over fear and polarity. Given the strictness of the law of non-interference, contact between the Galactic Federation and humanity is established through methods that respect the autonomy of the incarnated ego, using the subconscious and higher consciousness as gateways. The most frequent type of contact is telepathic channeling or frequency transmission. This requires an individual to raise their own vibration to a point of coherence, often 5D, in order to act as a biological transducer that can decode the waves of information coming from higher dimensions. The transmissions are not merely messages, they are downloads of consciousness architecture, energetic data that install new cognitive and emotional templates. However, this process is inherently risky as the information descends through the filter of language, beliefs, trauma, and the channeler's personal polarity. This is why federated messages always demand sovereign discernment from the receiver. The listener must feel the truth in their heart and not blindly accept it based on the authority of the star name that pronounces it. Another crucial form of interaction is dream contact or projection in the Delta realm. During deep sleep, when the conscious mind is inactive and the astral field expands, members of the Federation, particularly the Pleiadians and Arcturians, communicate directly with the superconscious. It is here that service missions are negotiated, profound energetic healings are offered, and subtle technological or philosophical insights are introduced, which may then emerge in waking life as intuitions or creative innovations. This is a contact that bypasses the ego's censorship and respects the individual's learning structure. Direct physical contact is extremely rare and is reserved for starseed activation protocols or for the preparation of Earth ambassadors who have specific contracts for the transition. These encounters typically take place in dimensionally altered environments, such as dimensionally cloaked motherships or interdimensional bases, ensuring that the experience is not traumatic and that the technology is not immediately replicable by humanity in 3DE, thus maintaining the spirit of the Prime Directive. This is where we must look at the most uncomfortable truth the Federation is trying to communicate to us. The greatest challenge to the Prime Directive doesn't come from external forces, but from the very structure of 3D chaos used by the others, those who don't want Gaia's ascension. Many of the channeled messages circulating today, even those bearing famous star labels, are subtly distorted or outright manipulated by regressive groups who have learned to mimic the Federation's frequency, sowing confusion, dependency, and misinformation. The Galactic Federation, in its infinite wisdom and respect for our process, will not intervene to tell us which channel is genuine and which is not. The test of ascension is total sovereignty. If you depend on an external voice to tell you what the truth is, you have failed to exercise free will. And that dependency is the crack through which the dark elements continue to perpetuate the cycle of control. The Federation expects you to become the filter of truth. We have explored the anatomy of cosmic governance and the sanctity of your right to choose. The revelation of subtle distortion in stellar communications should compel you to deep examination. If sovereignty is the key to ascension, what filters are you using to discern truth from misinformation? Are you surrendering your power to the voice of the channeler, or are you demanding that the information resonate with the irrefutable wisdom of your own heart? Silence your mind now. Question the source of everything you think you know about the new Earth. Allow doubt, the great alchemist, to purify your understanding and prepare you for the final act, where we will address the energy of ascension, the sovereignty of the light body, and Gaia's ultimate role. The Galactic Federation is not built upon a pyramid of power, but rather manifests as a holographic matrix of consciousness, an intricate and fractal tapestry where each node, each civilization, council, or individual being radiates authority based on frequency, not rank. This structure, incomprehensible to the three-dimensional mind, accustomed to servitude and blind obedience, operates under the principle of synthetic consensus, a convergence of wisdom where the voice of experience resonates with greater frequency weight, but never exerts coercion. There are no permanent titles of leader or ruler as we know them. There are only those who, through their impeccable alignment with universal law, temporarily assume the role of synthesizers of the collective will, acting as neutral mirrors that reflect the best energetic path for the common good of the galaxy. It is a network of mutual service, where hierarchy is replaced by flawless resonance. Our earthly structures, based on competition, scarcity, and domination, have inevitably cast this shadow of control over our understanding of the Federation. We have mythologized the Orion High Council, the Ashtar Command, or the Lyran Court as if they were celestial monarchies, when in reality they are specialized nodes of function. The Pleiadian Council might focus on planetary genetic engineering and frequency raising, while the Alcyon Council might manage the administration of the Prime Directive, maintaining the delicate balance between assistance and non-interference. These are not legislative bodies that impose laws, but living libraries and laboratories of consciousness that offer templates for evolution through example, operating with a humility that would dismantle any claim to superiority the egoic mind might attribute to them. The operational mechanism of this non-hierarchical structure depends crucially on its members' ability to communicate instantaneously across the fifth dimension and higher, a pure telepathy that transcends linguistic ambiguity and emotional manipulation. Federated decisions, therefore, are not achieved through voting or divisive debates, but through deep immersion in the unified field, where the inherent truth of the situation becomes manifest and is accepted by the vast majority of the consciousnesses involved. This is cosmic democracy, a form of governance that eliminates the need for persuasion, since only resonant truth can be sustained at the vibrational frequency where the Federation operates. Dissent, if it exists, is not punished, but integrated and understood, enriching the consensus rather than fragmenting it. The Ashtar Command, often portrayed in Earth folklore as an intergalactic military fleet poised for a wartime rescue, is perhaps the example most distorted by human projection. While they do fulfill a logistical, energy quarantine, and dimensional stabilization function, especially during transitional peaks like the one Gaia is experiencing, their command structure is purely functional and temporary. They wear the veneer of discipline and hierarchy only to interact with 3D systems that demand perceptible order. But internally, on the mothership of light, a captain is simply a being who has mastered the energy synthesis necessary to maintain the protective field and who is willing to bear the burden of operational responsibility, not the authority to subjugate. Their role is to ensure that the law of non-interference remains sacred, even in the face of the most serious regressive provocation. The metaphysical significance of this non-structure is profound. It reveals the template for our own future. As humanity ascends to higher densities, the need for external control structures will dissolve. The Federation's non-hierarchical structure is a mirror reflecting that true governance arises from complete individual sovereignty and flawless telepathic connection. If the individual self is perfectly aligned with Source, the collective will spontaneously aligns with the divine plan. The Federation, therefore, does not govern us. It simply coordinates existing freedoms. The ultimate goal of evolution is perfect self-regulation, a state where external assistance becomes, by definition, a violation of free will. The law of non-interference, known in the cosmos as the prime directive, is not a bureaucratic rule, but the vibrational manifestation of a profound understanding of free will in a universe of duality. It is the sacred contract that protects each civilization's sovereign process to make its own mistakes, find its own light in the darkness, and reap the direct consequences of its dominant vibrational energy. The Federation cannot, and never will, trample on the lesson the soul chose to learn. To intervene prematurely, to save a civilization from the consequences of its own low-frequency choices, war, oppression, slow social self-destruction, is to rob it of its ascension, perpetuating a dependency that violates the fundamental principle of creation, mastery through experience. This law explains the apparent silence of the higher realms in the face of earthly suffering. 3D density and extreme duality exist precisely to maximize the potential for choice. Every challenge, every tyranny, every self-inflicted illness, every geopolitical crisis is an energetic catalyst designed by the collective soul to force a radical choice: service to oneself or service to others. If the Federation were to land on the National Mall in Washington, distributing healing technologies and exposing the lies of shadowy governments, it would eliminate humanity's need to choose truth for itself. The harvest of the fourth and fifth dimensions requires humanity to rise up on its own, exercising a sovereignty born from direct confrontation with the shadow. There are precise thresholds where the directive can be modulated but never ignored. The first threshold is the risk of total planetary annihilation affecting other civilizations, the use of nuclear weapons on a scale that threatens the Gaia grid or the stability of the solar system. The second, and more crucial for our time, is the clear and consistent request from a critical mass of planetary consciousness that has reached the vibration of sovereignty. This request is not an emotional plea for help. It is an irrevocable energetic alignment with the Federation frequency, a sign that humanity has transcended fear and is ready to govern its own ascension. The Federation does not intervene to save the frightened, but to co-create with the empowered who have irrevocably chosen the light. We must distinguish between direct intervention and subtle energetic assistance. The Federation has been assisting Gaia for millennia by modulating solar frequencies, infusing light templates into the planet's crystalline grid, and telepathically transmitting information through awakened channels. This is energetic service, not a violation of free will, as the acceptance or rejection of this light remains a sovereign choice of individual consciousness. The assistance is silent, gradual, and respects Gaia's processing speed. Intervention, on the other hand, would be a disruptive act that would rewrite planetary destiny without the sovereign consent of the incarnate majority, which, for fifth-dimensional beings, is an ethical aberration that only regressive races would commit. And here, mentee, we must confront an uncomfortable truth that dismantles much of the expected Great Revelation narrative. What if the Galactic Federation, in its unwavering adherence to the Prime Directive, has intentionally allowed certain regressive forces to operate with greater freedom on the Earth plane during this final cycle? The dramatic revelation is not that the Federation is absent, but that its presence is what guarantees the intensity of the conflict. They have allowed the darkness to manifest with unprecedented clarity, the agenda of total control, the dissolution of objective truth, extreme polarization, precisely to catalyze humanity's final choice. The visible chaos is not a failure of the directive. It is its most rigorous and deliberate application. The test is not whether they will save us, but whether the catalyst will force the absolute sovereignty of every incarnated being. Contact with the Galactic Federation and its delegates is a phenomenon that should be understood not as a binary physical event, but as a spectrum of frequencies ranging from subtle telepathic attunement to dense physical manifestation. The type of contact a civilization or individual experiences is directly correlated with their vibrational frequency and their alignment with truth. On Earth today, the vast majority of Federation interaction occurs in higher densities, 5D+, which are then translated, or rather filtered, into the third dimension, resulting in phenomena that Earth consciousness classifies as telepathy, channeling, or lucid dreams. Channeling is the most accessible form of contact, but also the most susceptible to corruption. It is not a direct phone line. It is a frequency resonance where the channeler becomes a biological tuning fork, attempting to match the vibration of a higher entity. The danger lies in the fact that the channeler must purge their own ego, expectations, fears, and, crucially, the interference of low-vibration entities posing as famous, ascended masters. The Federation uses channeling as a consciousness-seeding tool, but its effectiveness depends entirely on the purity and sovereignty of the receiver. It is your responsibility, as the listener, to discern the pure frequency from the echo of ego distortion or regressive manipulation. Contact on the dream and astral planes represents a much purer and deeper interaction. When three-dimensional consciousness is at rest, the light body is permitted to ascend to light stations, motherships, or etheric cities to receive instruction, healing, or data templates without the interference of the linear mental filter. Many of those who are viscerally drawn to ascension today received their most critical training in the astral state, even though the memory of these lessons is intentionally suppressed upon awakening. This suppression prevents interference from the 3D ego and protects the lesson from being misused or desecrated on the physical plane before consciousness is ready to integrate it. Physical contact in the third dimension is the rarest and often least effective form of communication. Most sightings of low-density craft are either misunderstood natural phenomena or manipulations orchestrated by regressive factions to foster fear and a sense of need for rescue. Real, direct physical contact with the Federation, the open mass landing, will only occur when Gaia's collective frequency has crossed an irreversible dimensional threshold, a moment when the law of non-interference can no longer be enforced, because humanity will have exercised its sovereignty to openly co-create with its star brothers and sisters. Until then, physical contact is limited to discrete encounters with key individuals who have demonstrated complete mastery and discretion, acting as silent ambassadors. The ultimate contact, however, requires neither ships nor channelers. It is the fifth dimensional contact, which occurs when the incarnated being achieves complete light-body integration. In this state of coherence, the individual becomes a fully functional and conscious node of the Galactic Federation while walking on Earth. External telepathy is no longer needed. Information flows from the source itself. This is the ultimate goal of planetary ascension, for each human to become their own council, their own commander, and their own channel. External validation becomes redundant. The promise of star contact is, paradoxically, the promise of total and irrefutable sovereignty. We have unveiled the operational layers of the cosmos and understood the sacredness of the law of non-interference, recognizing that the current chaos is the most precise catalyst to force our final choice. The Federation is not your savior, it is your mirror, reflecting the need for your total sovereignty. If the purest contact occurs in the fifth dimension and requires mastery of your own frequency, how are you seeking external validation, asking for truth to be handed to you instead of demanding it from the irrefutable silence of your own center of power? If the universe has given you the most difficult test to rise up, are you reacting with fear and crying out for rescue, or are you breathing sovereignty and forcing your own ascension? Stop the external vibration now. Allow the uncomfortable truth of your total responsibility to settle in your chest. You are alone in your ascent, and in that solitude resides your unlimited power. Take a deep breath, prepare for the final act. Starseeds and the mastery of frequency. Starseeds are not an alien race seeking refuge on Earth, but rather specific frequencies of consciousness that voluntarily chose to incarnate in the lowest density to act as energy transformers and vibrational anchors of the fifth dimension. Their contract was not to be saviors, but to be silent detonators. Their genetic code, though camouflaged within the human body, retains the working memory of higher dimensions, allowing them to withstand and catalyze the intense waves of photonic light saturating the planet, acting as a conscious lightning rod that directs source energy directly to Earth's crystalline grid. The pain and sense of uprootedness they often experience is not a failure, but the necessary friction between the high frequency they contain and the surrounding three-dimensional density, a process known as painful light integration. The awakening of a starseed involves the active decoding of this contract. After the initial activation, the challenge lies not in remembering who they were in Orion or the Pleiades, but in integrating who they are now, here on Earth. Their mission is summarized in the absolute mastery of their personal frequency. They must learn to maintain vibrational coherence, unconditional love, regardless of the external chaos that the three-dimensional matrix presents them. If they fail at this point and fall into reaction, fear, or victimhood, they become dysfunctions in the system, slowing down the collective ascension. Their power then resides in inner alchemy, transmuting emotional baggage and social conditioning into pure gold of sovereignty. The most critical function of starseeds is calibrating the new Earth. They are the first to inhabit fifth-dimensional space while their feet still touch the 3D ground, creating a dimensional bridge. Every time a starseed operates from coherence and non-judgment, they are strengthening the threads of the new grid. When they meditate, they are not only healing themselves, they are stabilizing a frequency. When they make decisions based on their deepest integrity, they are rewriting the evolutionary blueprint of the planet. Their work is solitary and often misunderstood, as they are called upon to dissolve control structures simply by ignoring them, denying them their energetic nourishment through emotional detachment. We have reached the point where galactic identity must fully merge with human identity. The separation between the higher self and the incarnated self is the final illusion that must be shattered. A mature starseed no longer feels like an exile, but rather like the resident architect. They cease seeking rescue from the ships and begin to recognize that the most powerful vessel is their own physical body, the tool that allows them to manipulate time, space, and density through intention and focused emotion. This is the essence of sovereignty, understanding that they did not come to receive instructions, but to execute them from infallible inner knowledge. For the activated starseed, contact with the Galactic Federation, the higher councils, and the civilizations of light becomes a constant and unavoidable inner dialogue. It is no longer a quest, but a state of being. Earth's ascension is not a chance event. It is the collective manifestation of the success of these field agents. They are proof that humanity has the latent capacity to transcend duality. Their final activation is the signal to the cosmos that Earth, in its entirety, is ready to graduate because its delegates have claimed their irrefutable power. The ascension of Earth is not a physical abduction or a spectacular catastrophe that erases three-dimensional life, but rather the culmination of a vibrational process that allows the planet to permanently anchor the frequency of the fifth dimension. 5D is not a geographical location, but an operational state of consciousness where time is fluid, manifestation is instantaneous, and the only functioning law is the law of unconditional love. Earth, as a living and conscious entity, Gaia, has already completed its own stellar ascension. What we are witnessing now is humanity's evolutionary delay, which requires a collective and individual commitment to synchronize with the new planetary frequency. This dimensional leap requires the complete elimination of the collective density that thrives on fear, scarcity, and war. The third dimension is the dimension of extreme polarity and inexperienced free will. The fifth dimension is the dimension of unity and total responsibility for one's own creation. The passage between these two dimensions is achieved through sustained heart coherence, what science calls heart-brain alignment. This alignment dissolves the reactive ego and allows Christ consciousness, the state of oneness, to become the primary operating system. The ascension process is forcing each soul to confront and purify its shadow patterns and limiting belief systems. Earth is acting as a vast alchemical pressure cooker, raising the frequency temperature so that everything that does not resonate with 5D, trauma, judgment, resentment, is expelled or transmuted. Current global conflicts, systemic crises, and apparent social chaos are the external manifestations of this massive internal purification. The collapse of 3D structures is necessary because they are incompatible with the 5D frequency. They cannot exist there. The fifth dimension operates under a sacred geometry that requires absolute energetic integrity. This means that lying, manipulation, and concealment become dimensionally impossible, as telepathy and vibrational transparency are the norm. Herein lies the key to sovereignty. No one can deceive you if your own energy system is clean and you are your own truth detector. Collective ascension is achieved when a critical mass of star seeds and awakened humans maintains this frequency of integrity, creating a fifth-dimensional morphogenetic field that literally absorbs the old matrix without fighting against it. Thus, final enlightenment is not perfection, but the complete acceptance of creative responsibility and commitment to the frequency of the heart. Earth's ascension is the cosmic decree that the great experimentation with duality has successfully concluded. Now begins the next chapter, the era of conscious co-creation, where humanity, mature and sovereign, joins the Galactic Federation not as protégés or pupils, but as full members, having demonstrated its mastery over density. The portal is open. It is no longer a matter of waiting. It is a matter of walking with complete certainty in the light that you already are. The ultimate revelation is not the complexity of higher dimensions, but the thunderous simplicity of truth. The fifth dimension requires no complex esoteric rituals or advanced technology. It requires only one thing: sustained energetic integrity. Your ability to maintain heart coherence in the face of provocation is the only dimensional passport you need. The great lesson of duality is that there was nothing to gain externally. The entire universe awaited your inner choice. If sovereignty is your natural state and your ascension is already decreed in the higher frequencies, what residual density are you holding on to for fear of the full manifestation of your own light? The time for doubt is over. Declare your sovereignty. Breathe in your mastery. The cosmos has tested your ability to be your own beacon, and you have prevailed. This path to transcendence is not private. It is a gift to the collective. If these words have resonated in the deepest chamber of your truth, share them with those who are still searching for their frequency. Subscribe and turn on notifications to anchor yourself in this constant flow of revelation and power. The next portal calls us to delve deeper into the manifestation process on the new Earth, revealing the hidden keys to 5D abundance. I invite you to cross the threshold to our next encounter. The time to be saved has expired. The time to be the savior has begun.